Social media for the C-suite. The actual title I was given was Why Senior Executives Need Social Media, How to Use It, and How to Protect Against Reputational Risk. That's a really big title if you're used to working in characters in 140 characters or less. So for purposes that will become apparent in a few minutes, I've shortened it to Social Media for the C-suite. And I think that's relevant to my presentation today, in as much as I'm sure your organizations are all using social media. I'm less confident from my own research that the senior executives within those organizations are using it. So that's what I'd like to focus on. My name is Scot McKee. I'm the managing director of Birddog. We're a brand and digital agency based in central London. The work that we do focuses in 4 core areas: brand, digital, social, and content. And in terms of any marketing communications activity for brands these days, we believe those are the 4 areas that everyone should be looking to promote, both individually and corporately. So when I was given the opportunity to speak here, my experience isn't the hotel industry. My experience is building brands and working in social media. But I was referred to the conference by someone in the industry to offer an alternative perspective. And so I felt a little bit uneasy about the marketplace and thought, well, I need to give myself some context for who I was going to be talking to, particularly a C-level audience. And I wanted to know how important that C-level audience is. And in my mind, if I'm talking to senior executives, CEOs, financiers, investors, those are the people I was told were going to be here today, that makes you pretty bloody important, okay? And context is everything. So there you are. I've personalized you. You're the guys with the stubble and the aviator shades. And the next question I asked myself was, how much do you care about social media? And from what I could see, the answer was really not that much. Not yet, anyway. So the next logical question is, what is social media? And I think if I do nothing else today to actually be able to define social media for you to take away personally would be an asset, might be helpful. At the moment, social media is probably regarded by the senior executives within organizations as the pink, flowery marketing stuff. It happens, it may even have a value, but it's not being engaged with by the executives themselves. It happens elsewhere in the organization. So it's useful at the front end, it's useful on site in locations, and it's perhaps useful at the back end for customer services purposes. But it's not necessarily being adopted and used throughout the organization. And as we accelerate into the social economy, we are finding that organizations themselves have to be social in order to be heard by the crowd. So the senior executives don't think that they need it specifically, because you're all bloody important, right? And there's a problem with that. And the problem is the crowd. And what I mean by the crowd is the connected network of online customers and prospects that make up your respective markets. It's a large crowd, and it's getting larger all the time. And if you're not connected with it, clearly you're outside of their influence. So without dwelling too much on statistics, I just wanted to give you a flavor of the size of the crowd now. Facebook has over 750 million users. Twitter, 300 million. YouTube has 200 million views per day. Groupon, 115 million users. LinkedIn, 100 million users. Hopefully you're familiar with these channels. Pandora, 100 million users. Flickr, 40 million users. WordPress, 50 million users, WordPress being the primary blogging site. Google Plus. Google Plus is an interesting one. It has 45 million users. It has 90 million registered users. 45 million are active. And they don't actually care about the number. All they're interested in is the data that they can now collect from the profiles of their registered users. Foursquare has 10 million users. That's an awful lot of millions of people engaging in social media. About 2 billion users then using social media, and that's just across the 10 networks that I've outlined. Okay? To give you a clue, if that's 2 billion across 10 networks, there are approximately another 800 networks in the social media space. These people are social, they're connected, and they want to contact you. That's what social media is all about, the ability to reach out and touch. Not faceless organizations anymore, although that's part of the social profile, but the individuals within it, within a connected network. So we're not talking about the branded you, the corporate you. I'm aware, and you'll be aware, of the organization's social activities. I'm talking about the individuals, you, the people in the room, and how you're using social media. Because customer services, the customer services using social channels is no longer enough. And I think the mistake that people make is looking at one area of social media. Typically, the right-hand side of that triangle. This is the social Trinity model. And the right-hand side shows conversation. And that's what people tend to talk about most when they're looking at social media, the interaction and conversation. But there are two other important parts. One is networking, the ability to connect and network with individuals. And the other is the communities that you can grow and build and engage with. And it's only when all three sides are working together that you have a fully connected enterprise. And in order for that to happen, the enterprise itself has to be connected. And right in the middle of that are your brands. So while I'm talking about you as individuals, I'm trying to connect you back to the brands that you represent within a social space. And customers do expect to be able to reach the executives that they want to speak to now. You can't hide behind a desk any longer and leave it to the marketing department or any other department for that matter. You have to become involved. And this is happening at the highest levels. So if there's any doubt about the influence of social media at the highest levels, there's some examples of the social C-suite. Okay? Barack Obama, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, the Dalai Lama is even using Twitter. Okay, Eric Schmidt, the ex-CEO of Google, Scot McKee, you've probably heard of him, Martha Stewart, even Richard Branson, who's currently promoting the line, "Screw business as usual," which I quite liked. Okay, so people at the highest levels of business are using social channels to engage with their audience. Even if they're not doing it all the time directly, they're listening and active in these spaces. And if you as individuals remain unavailable to your audience, as many C-level executives are, that's okay. But the danger is that people will make up a profile for you. So if you're not engaged, they'll decide for themselves. You are unable then to manage their perception of you and your brands. And if there's any doubt about that, let me give you another example. Okay, the Queen doesn't participate in social media. At least the real Queen doesn't. But many alternative profiles for the Queen exist. So here she is with a pistol and silencer. And there are a couple of alternative character profiles representing the Queen's brand. Okay, now this isn't just a small thing, it's quite a big issue. Okay, Elizabeth Windsor, the character there, has almost 600,000 followers. Okay, so that's 600,000 people being influenced by someone who isn't the Queen and her dead mother. It's quite amusing to start with until you start to apply the concept to your own brands and how you manage your own reputation. Because it's not an isolated incident. In the case of the Queen, her reputation can be quite easily damaged. These are all individual accounts claiming to be the Queen and tweeting accordingly. Okay, there's quite a few there. There's quite a few more. Okay, so if you're not managing and controlling your own brand, someone else is going to do it for you. Whether they're talking as you or about you, if you're not involved, anything can happen. And there's more still. And on it goes. Now, I'm not suggesting that you are all as popular or as the Queen, perhaps, but hopefully the point is made. So, the conversation is happening, whether you like it or not. Whether you're engaged or not, it's going on. Those 2 billion users or more are participating, talking about you and your brands every day, whether you're influencing or shaping those perceptions or not. They're talking with you, without you, about you. So how important are we now? You know, are those billions of users starting to trouble you maybe a little bit? About that much. There is good news in all of this. The good news is the opportunity that this type of market creates for you as individuals as well as your corporate brands. And these are the basic social steps. I particularly like the photograph here of a woman in stiletto heels climbing the social steps using a mobile phone, as I'm sure all you ladies do regularly. The social steps then: listen, learn, engage, influence, and convert. Okay, the last one's probably the most important and the hardest to achieve, where you actually convert from traditional media into social media and generate business as a result of it. All built around that social Trinity model. So listening. Listening costs nothing other than a bit of time to actually look at what's happening in your respective areas of interest, to register, subscribe, and monitor what's happening in your industry that's of interest to you specifically. Costs no money, takes a bit of time, and can be enormously revealing. You can listen to your customers, clearly, that's an obvious one. You can listen to competitors. Okay, they're all talking on social channels, revealing information that could be of use to you in the future, at least making you aware of what's happening in the marketplace. And you can listen to staff. Are they representing your brand in the way you want them to? You can gauge opinion and monitor and track. You can learn about what's happening in the industry. You would be amazed, if you haven't discovered already, the information that is available online, free and readily accessible. We are now living in a sharing economy, okay, where we have to share information. It's no longer possible to protect all your trade secrets and all your IP because the crowd isn't interested in that. They expect to learn and understand what makes you so special before they're prepared to engage with you. So there's an awful lot of information out there that you can learn from and that you can then share with your own networks, your own wider communities. that gives you the ability to engage with them. You've got something to talk about now, something in common, something of interest to them, something of value beyond the product functionality itself. And that allows you connections and conversations. Okay? The connections and conversations give you influence. This is a brand amplification model here, so we can all understand how information travels through a social space. One person communicates a message to two communicate it to two more communicate it to two more, and so on. And you start to reach a very wide audience really quite quickly in order to build up influence in the marketplace. And finally, then, you can convert. If you have influence in a social space, if people are listening to you and talking to you, you can shape their perceptions, manage your own reputation, and build business from it. You're operating with the power of many, as opposed to the power of one. And the important thing to remember there is you don't decide anymore. So you can't push this message. You have to wait for the crowd to engage with you. And that's all very well, but we still haven't answered the question. What is social media? So, what we do know is it's confusing. I've been working in this space for years, and every day someone offers me a different interpretation of what social media is to them. And that's okay. It can be different things to different people, but we need some way of shaping understanding. So I want to use a single framework for this, and I'm going to call it the establishing statement. Okay, so we all have one single view of what we're aiming at. This shouldn't be too difficult for a room full of senior executives. This is a framework I use for building brand models, and it's a way of taking a lot of different ideas and distilling them down into one consistent view of the truth. Okay? So there's 4 bits of information missing there that represent the audience, the brand, or in this case, the subject that we're looking at, a context for the subject, and the competency. What makes it special? And if we can fill in those blanks, we should have a single view of what social media is. We have a completed establishing statement. For anyone seeking information or opinion, social media is the online channel that connects people with content. Is everyone happy with that? Does anyone violently disagree with that? Excellent. That's what it is. Okay, and hopefully that demystifies the technology. At a C level, the conversations I have are about people not wanting, about technophobes or Luddites not wanting to get too immersed in technology, and it really isn't. That's all it is. So, whoopee, we can all get on the chair and jump up and down. It's not too tough. We now know what social media is. Great. Well, now we know what it is. What next? Well, once we know what it is, we need to look at how we participate. And in order to do that, all you really have to do is choose your weapon. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, there are about 800 channels for you to choose from. I wouldn't recommend you try and use them all, but picking 1 or 2 is the best way to start. But before we do that, we probably ought to look at the different kinds, because they're not all the same. You may be familiar with these channels, but let's just categorize them so we know what we're talking about. There are social networks. These are networks that you are, for the most part, able to control. LinkedIn and Facebook, there are issues surrounding all social channels about privacy, but for the most part, LinkedIn and Facebook, social networks, you are able to control who you allow into the network, who you engage with on that network. There's a firewall there. There are blogs, part of the social portfolio, WordPress, Posterous. Blogging at a C level is highly effective for improving thought leadership in an industry. Okay? You may be doing this already, your organizations may be doing it already, but it'll be coming from a mid-management level. It has to come from a senior level for it to gain any kind of thought leadership in the marketplace. Yeah, the head of the business issuing their vision, their ideas for the future of the business, the future of the industry. Highly effective way of engaging audiences who are interested in that space. Wikis are another form of social media. You're probably familiar with Wikipedia. That's a collaborative effort where the content of Wikipedia, for example, is crowdsourced and everyone contributes to it. There's forums and chat rooms. They tend to get a bad press these days, but may be relevant to very niche, more technical audiences. Forums are where social media came from, you know, bulletin boards and so on. They still exist. Connect communities, YouTube, SlideShare, Flickr. Just let me check. I was speaking to someone over the last couple of days who hadn't heard of SlideShare. Can you just put your hands in the air if you haven't heard of SlideShare? Okay. I'll be talking about it in a second anyway, but SlideShare is a way of, it's a site that allows you to host PowerPoint presentations and distribute it worldwide. We'll come on to it in a minute. Flickr, is everyone familiar with Flickr? Okay. Flickr is a photo sharing site. Again, it hosts images that can be shared with the world. And if you rack all three of those up, they're all fairly visual, but YouTube, presumably you all know. Yes, everybody nods, good. So you have video, moving images, slide decks, and photographs, all of which represent different parts of either an organization or an individual's life within the organization. And combined, they provide a very clear picture of brand personality, individual personality within a business that you can use. They're all free to use. Microblogging forms part of social media. The most obvious one is Twitter. Presumably you've all heard of Twitter. Yes? Yes. Good. Okay. Okay, so we know what they are. We know the kind of categories. And you understand that. But you're a senior executive, and do you really need to use any of these things? Is it relevant to you? Well, I would maintain that you're doing these things already in a traditional sense. And all I would suggest you do is look at how you can apply what you're already doing to an online world. So at the moment, you are using social media one handshake at a time. The people you meet at this conference is the traditional way of networking. You do it every day in meetings. You're having meetings, exchanging ideas, listening to views and sharing them. But it's contained within that meeting room, and it could be shared with a much wider audience. You're doing it every day on the telephone, every call you make. You're having these conversations with people, and all that content is being restricted to one-on-one conversations, where a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it could be applied to a wider audience and attract an audience towards you. So there comes a point where it's all a bit slow, and one step at a time doesn't accelerate the business in the way that you might like, particularly where competitors or other people in the industry using social channels are moving faster because they're using these channels. So when it starts to feel that progress feels a bit slow, you need to start to look at how you accelerate. And the way you accelerate is to participate with these. Because historically, for the last few years, what we've been doing, what companies have been doing, is relying on their websites to be a repository of information and assuming that their customers and prospective customers will automatically visit their website. And they won't. Okay? The Cisco produced research 2010, so already 2 years old, that showed website traffic falling off a cliff, okay, in preference to huge increases in social traffic, to peer-to-peer networks, YouTube, and so on. And what's happening is the audiences are active and participating within the social media sites, not visiting your website. So you can no longer host information on a website and push it out to the audience. You have to participate within the social spaces and draw people towards your information. Okay? And the only way you can do that is by being active yourselves within those spaces. And for that to happen, it can't just be the marketing department or the front of house engaging in customer service social media. It has to be the entire organization representing the brand through social channels. Okay, and I'm saying that not because I want you to do this. I don't really care. But your customers want you to do this. And that would be the reason for you to look at how and what you're using as your social channels. You, as the executives of the company, are also part of the company, a bloody important part, obviously, but a part of it nonetheless. And it can't be delegated in its entirety, and therefore the executives of the organization have to hug the crowd as well. I wanted to show you how you might do that. And the best way is to start with the familiar, okay? To socialize the activity that you're already comfortable with and that you're already doing at a traditional level, but take it into a social world. And that way, you're able to integrate the other marketing activity and support it. And that's all you have to do. What you're already doing, but in a social world, in a social way. So, as I was outlining earlier, the things that you're already doing, the meetings, the seminars, the presentations, can be applied to these channels. Blogging, SlideShare, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. If you do nothing else, have a look at those. There's another 800. Don't worry about them for now. Just look at these ones. And I thought the best way to do it would be to give you a working example. Okay? And the working example we're going to use this afternoon is me. Because I'm a bloody important executive too. So I thought if I showed you what I do, typically, it may, who knows, inspire you to have a look at it yourself. So, for example then, I've been a columnist in B2B, business-to-business marketing magazine for the last 5 years, I think. Their longest standing columnist. Once a month, I write a column for the back of the magazine. Everyone laughs their head off, and it's hysterical. Okay? It's all about B2B marketing. And so I could happily put my title there, Scot McKee, columnist, B2B marketing magazine. That's the traditional model. But we don't have to change it very much to take it online. So we change the word columnist to blogger, and we've already got a digital flavor. And we get rid of the magazine, and we start to look at B2B marketing's other channels. And they have their own online digital hub, which reaches a much wider audience. It's a global audience now, not a UK publication anymore. It's not in print, it's online, it's available to everyone. And so there we are, there's my blog from whenever, early part of February. That was my monthly column, now available as a blog on a hub that gives me a much wider platform, much wider reach into the industry. So Scot McKee, blogger, B2B marketing. And the next step is to syndicate that content. Once you produce these things, you're creating assets. Remember, in our definition of social media, I said there was people and there's content. You write a blog, it's content. And all you have to do is get it to the people, as many as you can, that it's relevant to. So we need to syndicate that content and find multiple platforms to apply it to. And that way, we can delete the qualifiers. So it's no longer just about B2B Marketing Magazine, which is just a single platform. I can use the same content and syndicate it across multiple related industry platforms. CIPR is the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, and our own website as well carries my blog. So now it's not just B2B marketing. The same asset, the same piece of content is reaching 3 different networks, 3 different channels in one fell swoop. Okay? I'm starting to extend my reach into the industry. Slide share. You don't seem very familiar with that. So in this case, it's about presentation. So in this example, it's presented by Scot McKee. I've got a slide deck here today. I'll be using it later and publishing it on SlideShare. I'll tag it so that it's classified with all the relevant keywords that my prospective clients and customers would be interested in. They'll be able to search on Google or on SlideShare if they're already using it, and they'll find this presentation. Okay, so at the moment, I'm talking to, I don't know, 100 people in the room. When I publish it on SlideShare, it'll reach several thousand. So it's great that you're here today. I'm delighted you turned up. I'm a lot more interested in the thousands of people outside of this room that I can draw towards the Birddog brand. That's how you should be thinking. Okay, you all will have PowerPoint slides of one description or another on your laptops that sit on your laptops. They see the light of day once. They contain great content, great information that no one ever sees again. Share it. There's one from a presentation I gave 3 months ago now, I think, called Turdy Brown Trousers. That was a good one. You should check that one out. To give you a clue then, by rewriting the content that you have and publishing it on SlideShare, I gave that presentation to about 100 people, 150 people. Within 3 weeks, it had 707 views there of people interested in that content about B2B marketing outside of the conference that I presented it at. So I've already times my reach by 7. The slides that were seen by one can be shared by many. And it's not just me placing it on a site. It's the network itself forwarding the content to other people. So there's a tweet from someone saying, about this particular presentation, saying, Scot McKee nails it. Okay? And that's him telling his network about my presentation. So I'm not doing the work anymore. It's just happening. It's happening within a connected network. And what happens then is within 3 months, we're up to, it says 3,298 views of that one presentation there. That was a couple of weeks ago. It's about to top 4,000. Looked a couple of days ago. So, but even if it was 3,000, if I can give this presentation once a day, 300 days of the year, it would take me 10 years to get that kind of reach. And you're all carrying these assets around in your briefcase. Next example is starring Scot McKee. So you're familiar with YouTube. Are you using it? So you'll notice the video cameras are here today. That's creating more content. Again, I'm talking to you, the people in the room, but I'm interested in the people outside of the room. So this presentation, there are many thousands of senior level executives that may be interested in what I have to say. I'm going to share it with them. It'll be on YouTube, along with some other of my presentations, and that'll help me reach hundreds of more people. Okay, so all your presentations, the seminars that you give, the keynote speeches that you write should be videoed as assets and shared with your network in order to amplify your voice in a social space. There's the example of the Turdy Brown Trousers one. That was good. I took a photo of the crowd at that presentation to prove to them that there was an engaged audience outside the room. And in the 20 minutes that it took me to give the presentation, I tweeted the photo from the stage. And in the 20 minutes that it took, presenting to about 100 people, about 600 people had had a look at that one photo. Okay, drawing more people into the conversation that would otherwise be excluded from it. Why wouldn't you want to do that? So the content that was seen by a few can be viewed by many. And again, the network does the work for you. So there's a tweet from someone saying, Scot McKee, 1 hour of your videos inspires a whole career. So he's recommending my content onto his network, and so it goes on. Okay, and then shared by Scot McKee. So LinkedIn. I suspect you're all using LinkedIn, and I suspect you use it periodically. It's actually a rich resource. It's not just a job board. You don't need it just to find jobs. You've already got a job because you're the important senior executives. So start looking at it as a community hub. If you need a starting point, this is probably it, where your audience is already involved, over 75 million business people already connected, and it is a community hub where you can use all kinds of tools within LinkedIn, not just the jobbing recruitment aspect. I've highlighted one there, groups you may like. Okay? There will be hotel groups, hotel-related information on there. There is, I know there is. If there isn't the one that specifically suits you, you can create one for free. You can create content and allow people with the same interest to join and share the discussion. You can lead the discussion or you can follow it, but either way you can control what's being said. Okay, so learn to use these things. Learn to use how to connect them. So we've talked about the assets that we've been creating, the slide decks, the videos, and so on. Well, LinkedIn is a way of amplifying those messages. So this example shows my blog being promoted on LinkedIn. Okay, so I can share the blog that I've written that's available and syndicated on all of those websites. I can also share it with the network on LinkedIn so that they know where to find it. It'll feed back a host of information. If you're not familiar with these, you can review what's happening on your LinkedIn profile so you can see who's looking at you. I don't know if you do that. It's a great source of new business opportunity, where people that you've never met, people you don't know, you can tell whether they've been looking at your profile and follow that up. It has rich functionality. I've written a couple of books. There's a facility on LinkedIn that allows people to share their reading list. So I use it to demonstrate on my profile that I have those books and also share the comments about it. Okay, so it creates further conversation from the content that I'm creating. And it allows the audience to pass that information on as well. So that example is someone who happens to have found my book, read the book, and says it's worth a read, particularly the chapter on something brilliant. Okay? And so it goes on. Finally, Twitter. Twitter's not about lunch. Okay? That's the one that really gets me. It's about everything. Twitter's about life and lunch. Okay? So we all have lunch, but we build up a more human profile of our personal brands or corporate brands by talking about everything. But it's still a channel for communicating the core business assets that you've been creating. Okay, there's me on Twitter promoting my business channel. So it's a way of cross-referencing, overlapping with the other activity within the business. So if you have a corporate Twitter account, you can use a personal Twitter account to promote that and share the information. It's cross-network, cross-platform. Okay, so Twitter integrates with LinkedIn so that you can have one message posted to both networks at the same time. Brilliant. Double your money with one click. And again, you can allow the network to do the work for you. So once you're creating and communicating in this way, your engaged users pick up on it, and in this case, someone has favorited that tweet. So they've had a look at the content, they like it, and they've made it a favorite with one click, telling their entire network to have a look at this piece of information. Okay, so in the example that I've given, the Scot McKee brand, it might look like social media is all about the individual, but it's actually all about business. So all roads lead to the brand, ultimately. That's why you're doing it, to connect people with content. And everything that I've talked about today links back to my business. That's what I'm trying to achieve. And if you're in any doubt about that, let's just have a quick look. So on Twitter, the red circles are going to highlight the areas of corporate promotion, if you like. My Twitter profile talks about my company, Birddog. LinkedIn has a whole company profile. So my individual profile is linked to my business profile. It even carries branding and so on, so you can connect it together instantly. The blogs that I write also carry business profiles. Okay, it talks about me personally, it talks about the business that I run, it allows me to carry branding, photographs, profiles, and so on. It's the same with YouTube, connected to a business user YouTube account, carrying the Birddog name that draws people back to the mothership. And even these slides are carrying the Birddog brand. So when I release them into the world, I'm also promoting the corporate brand. Yeah. So to end at the beginning, the social steps: listen, learn, engage, influence, convert. You can all do it as individuals. It's important. And I hope it's been helpful. You'll find me on Twitter. You'll find me on just about every social platform, actually. Please keep in touch if you'd like to. If you have any questions, I'll happily take those now, or I'm here for the rest of the evening if you would like to talk to me individually. Thank you for your time.